Who would you have right now, preseason number one, knowing that Milos Uzan is declaring for the draft, also knowing that Pop Isaacs just announced that he will be, well, it didn't just announce, it was about a week ago at this point, but that he will be attending Houston, knowing the recruiting class they have coming in, knowing some of the additions that Texas Tech has made. It's not just JT Toppin coming back. You got LaJuan Watts from Washington State coming in. You got Donovan Atwell from UNC Greensboro coming in. We know what Louisville's done. We know what be like. Who right now do you have number one? Is it got to be Houston at this point?
No, I don't think it has to be Houston. I could make a case for Purdue. Again, you have, the most important player in Braden Smith. You got Trey Kaufman-Renn. If you put somebody next to him, if Daniel Jacobson is healthy as a rim protector, shot blocker, I don't know how well. Again, I want to see that with my own eyes to see how that works with Clough and take TKR or Jacobson and TKR. But I could easily make a case for Purdue over Houston at this point. I think the team to watch here and the team that could be the number one team in days or a week if they get the right pieces, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is Rick Pitino and St. John's, because they're in there for Xavier Lee and Ian Jackson. And, they just picked up Isaiah Sellers today, one of the best shooters in the portal, a 40% shooter the last 2 years at Stanford. Obviously, they got Sannon and from Arizona State. He can shoot it at the 3 spot. Bryce Hopkins at the 4, Zuby back at the 5. They're top 6 or 7. If they land, to me, they're the number one team in the country if they land Xavier Lee and Ian Jackson. Maybe even just Xavier Lee. If they get him, I think I'm willing to put them at number one.
Yeah, I think Xavier Lee is the big one. And we'll kind of dive into that here in a few minutes when we get to that. That's what we call a tease here in the business, Goodman. We have our list of the 10 best transfers that are available on the market. And you just mentioned 2 of, I believe, our top 5 right there that are left kind of on the board. And the top 2 might actually be heading to the NBA. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute or two. I want to make my pitch for Texas Tech on why I think Texas Tech should have a very real case to be the preseason number one team in college basketball. Christian Anderson, we saw the leap that he made towards the end of his sophomore season, right? Or the end of his freshman season. We know how good he's been at different points throughout the year. You have JT Toppin coming back. So you have your 1 and you have your 5 and you have kind of the 10 poles for the team that you want to be able to put together. And then if you look at the rest of the roster that they put together, LaJuan Watts might not be as good as Darian Williams, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a guy that can't fill that same kind of a role. Like, he's a big physical wing. He's not super athletic. He's a playmaker. I think he averaged like 13, 7, and 4 last year at Washington State. Really good player. Tyree Bryan, we saw him at our event in South Dakota, Goodman. He's a big kind of a combo forward that can stretch the floor a little bit, knock down some threes. Donovan Atwell is a guy that shot 42% from 3, an athletic wing. Like, they've found a way to be able to rebuild this roster in the vein of a program that wants a point guard with a 5-man that can rim run, and then a bunch of playmakers and shooters around those 2. And that's what Grant McCasland built last year. That's what he's trying to build this year. I think he's had success doing that. And I think the talent level has been upped. They're bringing back an All-American. And when it comes to retention, right, when it comes to bringing back the pieces that already kind of understand what you're asking for in a program, having your 1 and your 5 be the 2 that you build it around, I think is as good as any situation that you can be in. So I'm in on Texas Tech being right there. I think I probably would lean Purdue and Houston over them still, but Texas Tech you can't have a discussion about the best team in college basketball without including Texas Tech in some way in that argument.
It's open, Rob. Rob, the beauty is it's open because you have all these teams that have huge budgets right now too. And we're not going to know probably until May, at least a month, maybe longer, because we don't know what Darian Williams is going to do. We don't know what RJ Lewis is going to do, right? Certainly it looks like, and we can talk about these guys, that they're leaning towards staying in the draft. But we know that shit changes quickly. If you're being told by NBA teams that you're not a lock first-round pick right now, well, what's the point? You're going to go back. Now, again, the question is there going to be room? We know RJ Lewis isn't going to be back at St. John's, right? How it ended. But kind of like we saw with Coleman Hawkins last year. He comes back. Somebody is desperate at that point. There's some schools that are waiting at that point or have missed out and still have a big pile of cash sitting around that they haven't used, and they're going to go overpay for whoever's, maybe not even overpay compared to the market, but guys like that can obviously make big money. They're going to have fewer elite level options, right? The Dukes aren't going to be there probably. The Kansases aren't going to be there. Those types of schools are probably already going to, have their rosters full. But schools like, the Kansas States of the world, they might still have some money lying around and willing to pay a guy like that.
Yep. All right. So let's we might as well just get into that conversation now, since you're open to that can of worms. Our top 10